Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. You might have noticed a change in the presenting ranks, and there's with good reason as well. We're adding a new string to our bow here on the YouTube channel. There is a horse racing expert among our ranks, and I'm quite happy to say that these days it isn't me. So from April onwards, Adam Smido Smith on your screens there is going to be providing us with some regular content on the UK flat racing season. So horse racing fans, this is the place to be from April going forward. Going to be keeping you in the loop with all things going on and off the track. There'll still be plenty of darts chat. That's not changing, but we just wanted to provide something extra, a little bit different, and help grow our subscribers out and give you a bit more value for your time that you spend on our channel. So we're going to be having a look at anti-post races in our first four videos. So Adam's going to be taking a look through 4 of the biggest races of the season, starting today with the 2000 Guineas. Adam, firstly, maybe for the viewers, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background in horse racing and what is an anti-post race for those who don't know.
Well, that's some introduction from you there, Pieman. We've done the flat cap to signal our foray into horse racing. Yeah, so I've been in horse racing about 11 years, fortunately enough, in the marketing of and normally on the racecourse side of things rather than online. So yeah, I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time on racecourses since I left uni. Really, I was very, very lucky to get on the official British Horse Racing Authority graduate scheme as a fresh-faced 21-year-old straight out of uni. I don't know how I managed it because I knew naff all about racing at the time, and I really do mean naff all. But yeah, I got on that placement, and that included a 10-week work placement at the Tote. And basically, I'm still there, still working for the Tote 11 years later. So yeah, that's how I got into it. I caught the bug straight away, and genuinely I knew nothing about racing going into that. I was more of a football man. So yeah, I've caught the bug, and I've always been a flat racing fan. And flat racing, for those that don't know, takes place normally in the summer months between the middle of April till the middle of October ish, and then during the winters your national hunt racing over the jumps. I've not really got a keen interest in that, so I definitely won't be trying to provide advice on jumps racing. But yeah, flat racing is where it's at. In terms of anti-post, that anti-post means that you're betting on an event in advance of it happening, really. So there's 5 classics in the flat racing season that only 3-year-olds horses can compete in, and those 5 classics are looked forward to by fans and pundits for a long time in advance, and there's betting available in advance as well. The main caveat of anti-post betting is that if you place a bet and your horse does not take part for any reason, then you've done your money. You don't get your money back. But the beauty of it is, if you're betting early, and the beauty of anti-post betting is that if you're on the right one that does turn up on the day, you'll be getting an inflated price compared to what you would if you was backing it on the day. So, for example, at the moment in the 2000 Guineas market, there might be 100 horses available to bet. Matt's going to show you odds checker on the screen in a moment, but there might be 100 horses available to bet right now, but only between 14 and 20 of them will actually turn up on the day. So part of the skill is picking a horse that A, will turn up, and then B, run a good race. So hopefully we can shed some light on that today.
Yeah, you'd like to think so, and I'm sure there'll be a mixture of people watching this. Some people who know the racing inside out, and some people who might have just stumbled onto this off the back of a darts video or some other avenue. So I think it's important, especially for now, that we give quite a broad view on things, and that probably is a good time as well to ask about the 2000 Guineas itself. So you tell us a little bit more about that race in terms of, what horses is it for? Where is it run? Who's going to be running in it? Over what distance? A little bit of background on the race would be great.
Yeah, so the 2000 Guineas is traditionally the first of the 5 classics in any given season. And like I say, only 3-year-old horses can compete in the 5 classics. There's 2 classics for female horses, and there's 2 classics for male horses. And then there's one at the end of the season where both male and female can take part in. So the 2000 Guineas always takes place at Newmarket Racecourse, Newmarket is the home of flat racing, certainly within the UK, possibly within the whole world. So it takes place at Newmarket Racecourse over a straight mile, which is a pretty standard distance. And like I say, it's for males horses that are 3-year-olds. And then on the following day, usually on the Sunday, is the 1000 Guineas, which is for the female horses, which I'm sure we'll touch on another video.
Yeah, so primarily we're focusing, today on the 2,000 guineas, and at this point, probably a good time to have a look at the runners and riders and their respective odds at this stage. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully that's up on your screen now. You see that, Adam? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the Ante Post betting market for the 2,000 guineas 2021, and as you can see, as Adam mentions, run on the 1st of May. So these prices are correct as of the 17th of February 2021. So we're about 2.5 months away from race day. This market will change infinitely, I would imagine, as we go. But as it stands, we've got Battleground in there at a best price 9-1 favourite. St Marks Basilica at 10-1. Wembley at 12-1. Thundermoon 12-1. Master of the Seas in there at 16-1. High Definition also in at a best price of 16, and then it's 20-1 and lower for the rest. So that is our market as it stands. Adam, probably a good time to jump straight in there, I guess. Aidan O'Brien, of course, has won 5 of the last 10 renewals of this race, and I believe he has 4 of them 6 aforementioned horses in the market under his tutelage. So just a little bit about Aidan O'Brien in this race, please.
Oh, amazing, to be honest. Like you say, he's won 5 of the last 10 renewals of the 2,000 guineas. Mr. O'Brien has took away the first prize from Newmarket in early May. As you say, there's absolutely no surprise that he dominates the Ante Post market. First things first, he's got the 5 horses that you mentioned there. 4 trained by Aidan O'Brien. Battleground, St Marks Basilica and Wembley are the top 3 in the market, and High Definition is numbers 6 in the market. So he's dominating that, but it would be a good time to point out that it's unlikely that all 4 of those will run. But yeah, part of the skill of the Ante Post market is trying to pick which ones will run. But yeah, he's got an incredible record, particularly for an Irish-based trainer in Great Britain. I put out some. I'm quite a prudent stats keeper. I put out some stats last week on my Twitter, and got some good feedback there. But yeah, just incredible the things that O'Brien manages to do, and comes over every year and wins the top British races, all the time. And I've got a note here that he does have an average of 2.4 runners a year. Over my stats are 11 years old. I know it sounds a bit weird, 10, but it's 11 years. That's how long I've been keeping stats, and he does average 2.4 runners a year. So expect him to have 2, 3, or maybe 4 runners this year.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to retweet Adam's stats all onto the Doubles and Trebles Twitter page. Hopefully you're seeing the handles appear on your screen now, and also Adam's personal account where he'll be tweeting plenty of racing insight throughout the calendar year. So definitely give him and give our account a follow. I guess if we're going to jump into this race, traditionally in horse racing, we would look for a sort of entry point, wouldn't we? Some form in the book, a reference point that we can go off. And I think for this race, we would look at the Dewhurst. I'm sure you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about that last renewal of the Dewhurst, and it did involve some of these horses that are at the top of the betting market.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Dewhurst Stakes takes place at Newmarket, the same destination as the 2,000 guineas itself, but it's just over 1 furlong shorter. So the 2,000 guineas is over 8 furlongs. The Dewhurst is over 7 furlongs. So it is seen as a key trial. And once again, in 2020, the Dewhurst Stakes was proven as the best race, the best juvenile race in the UK, and crowned the European champion of 2-year-olds. And that European champion 2-year-old is St Marks Basilica, who's best price 10-1 at the moment. Like I say, officially the best 2-year-old in Europe last year. Obviously, he'll be 3 this year. Appeared to be O'Brien's second choice on the day on jockey bookings. Ryan Moore, who's the usual jockey for Aidan O'Brien, the best Aidan O'Brien horse, has actually rode Wembley on the day in the same race, who we'll come on to. But yeah, I was impressed with St Marks Basilica. To me, he was going away at the line. And he was really putting his authority on the race. Wembley was a strong finisher that day and did appear to be closing the gap. But like I say, just right near the line in the last 50 yards, St Marks Basilica was going again. He's a half brother to a horse who won this race. So Magna Graecia for Aidan O'Brien won the 2,000 guineas in 2019. He's got the same mum, if you like, or dam in racing talk. The female would be a dam. So yeah, he's a half brother to a horse who's already won this race. He ticks a lot of boxes for me, St Marks Basilica. It might not be the most original choice, given that his second favourite in the market at the moment at 10-1, but I do really like him. My only slight concern would be for St Mark's would be fast ground. He's always a possibility on May the 1st. Obviously, the sun will be shining by then, hopefully. So if it was to come up fast ground, as it often does at Newmarket, it would be a question mark, but not a massive one. Also,
could I just while I got you, can I just ask you about fast ground and you know, for people who are watching this who might not know what that means, the ground obviously in racing is a real key factor.
Yeah, absolutely, particularly in flat racing. So yeah, if it's quite simple really. If the sun shines and the temperature's hot and you know the wind conditions are correct, the ground underfoot, if you was to simply walk on your grass outside, it would be quite hard, and that would be fast ground. If it's been raining all week and you go out in your garden and it's squelchy underfoot, that would be described as soft ground. And particularly in flat racing, there is a big disparity of how some horses react to the different ground, and as the horses get more runs under their belt, you can see which ground they perform best on. I personally, as a betting person on flat racing, I prefer if it's good to firm ground. It's perfect for me. The faster the better, because I think that it's no excuses ground. You might hear people say that it's no excuses ground, and that's what the best flat horses should be able to perform on, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks for that. So sorry, you were just covering that race, obviously, and obviously we had St Marks Basilica, as you say, impressed you in that race, and Wembley was quite well fancied but didn't perform. Thunder Moon was also in that race, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, Wembley did perform. To be fair, he was second in the race. He's been an eye catcher on his last two starts, both in Group 1 races. Now, a race described as a Group 1 is the best of the best quality wise, and then it goes Group 2, Group 3, etc. Yeah, he was an eye catcher in both of his last two races as a 2-year-old at the end of 2020. Came off the pace and came down the centre of the track in the Dewhurst, and like I say, did look to be closing on then St Mark's Basilica, you know, at the time. But yeah, I think he'll certainly have his fans. But to me, Wembley looks a bit more of a Derby horse to be better. And I think on his breeding, on his mother and father in the horse racing terms, I think on his breeding, he's bred to be better over further than a mile. So you could well see Wembley running a good race at Newmarket in 2,000 guineas and then going on to Epsom for the Derby, where he would probably be more fancied. Thunder Moon was, I think he was third or fourth in the Dewhurst, and he went off 9-4 favourite for that. So he was obviously well fancied. I think he'll prefer a flatter track. So Newmarket is quite what they call undulating, so it goes a bit uphill, a bit down into a dip, what they officially call the dip, and then you rise out of the dip as well. So it is quite an up and down racecourse, Newmarket, and it is a test of the thoroughbred. But yeah, Thunder Moon travelled really well into the Dewhurst, but faded late on. Yeah, I think he'll be better on a flatter track. And there is an argument out there of people that know the breeding better than me that suggests he might be more of a 2-year-old than a 3-year-old. He's quite a small horse. That's what they say. So wouldn't be my idea of the 2,000 guineas at this stage. But if he was to line up in the Irish equivalent, in the Irish 2,000 guineas later in May, he might be better off there at the Curragh, where it's a flatter track.
And there was some other runners that we see in the betting, albeit not as prominently in that race. So any others that you feel are worth a mention?
Yeah, so the likes of Cadillac, Al Bashir, Chindit, they also ran in the 2,000 guineas. Disappointing in the main. Chindit went off quite short actually on that day in the betting, but disappointed. They'll all need an upturn in form to be a threat on Guineas Day itself in May. But you might see them in what they call a trial. So there isn't a handful of races that take place in both Ireland and Britain in April that would be a warm-up contest, if you like, for the Guineas itself. So if they perform well in there, then yeah, they'll earn the right to turn up at Newmarket on May the 1st.
Yeah, and just for reference, they're both in at 20 and 25 to 1 respectively. So not completely out of the reckoning by any shout, but obviously there is a bit of time until race day. That market will continue to change. I think we need to be looking over the water in the Irish terms of thing. Obviously, Aidan and Joseph O'Brien both come in from over that neck of the woods. And in the Irish calendar, we have the National Stakes, which provides a similar kind of guide to the Dewhurst. So what took your eye in that running?
Yeah, so St Mark's Basilica, Wembley and Thunder Moon all ran in the National Stakes as well, and there's a couple of others that we'll come on to mention. So on the face of it, was a messy race in terms of there was a bit of interference. There was quite scrimmaging, if you like, between the horses in the latter part of the race. So it's difficult to analyse some of it, but you can't not be impressed by how Thunder Moon, when he got a clear run in that race, scooted clear. Really, really impressive. It was almost press the button and away you go. And he did win the race well. St. Marks Basilica was third that day, and possibly would have got closer with a clear run. There was definitely horses that had worse runs through the field than St. Marks Basilica, but he didn't have it. Perfect run. But yeah, like I say, there's a handful of horses. Lucky Vega, who's not in the Guineas picture, but he was massively unlucky in the national stakes. So yeah, there's a few you could make that argument for. Wembley again finished from miles off the pace and came almost out of the back of the TV and nearly got home. He finished place that day. A horse I really like from the national stakes that didn't run the Dewhurst Stakes is a UK-based horse called Master of the Seas. He went off favourite that day for Charlie Appleby, and it's a surprise really to see a British runner go off favourite in such a race over in Ireland, because Aidan O'Brien dominates stuff and he normally has the favourite and the winner. But yeah, Master of the Seas, I thought he made really eye-catching progress between the 2 furlong pole and the 1 furlong pole. He had to use a lot of gas, I would imagine, to do that out of the gas tank. He looked all over the winner at the furlong pole with, the furlong's 212 yards. He looked all over the winner. He really caught the eye, but faded a little bit late on. And like I say, when Thunder Moon got the gap and he went for it, it was all over. But yeah, a fair and square defeat for Master of the Seas. But I think that it was a really eye-catching, and that was his last start of the season. So that was only in September, and you would expect to see him again in maybe October in the Dewhurst. We didn't. Charlie Appleby, the trainer from Newmarket, knows what he's doing, kind of finished him off for the season. I really like the look of Master of the Seas in 2021 as a whole. So I wouldn't advise today to back him for the Guineas at 16-1, because you don't know if he's going to go guaranteed to turn up or not. I would have thought he would. But he's 16-1 now, but he might only be 8-1 on the day. He's not the hype horse. He's not got a Group 1 win like the other guys, St. Marks Basilica and Thunder Moon. So I'd rather leave him alone, look at him for the season as a whole, maybe back him on the day at 6, 8, 10-1, when no doubt we'll be doing another video, Pieman.
Yeah, it makes a refreshing change to not have an O'Brien horse as well to talk about at the top of the market, doesn't it? But you know what I'm going to ask you next? We've talked about all these horses, and the one that we haven't mentioned is the one at the top of the betting. So I think there'll be plenty of people wondering, why is Battleground the favourite, and what has it done to merit being at the top of this market?
Yeah, it is close at the top of the market, Pieman, in terms of, Battleground and St. Marks Basilica and Wembley. They're very close in price range. And it should be said that normally at this time of the year, or over the winter period or over the Christmas period, if you like, there is normally a standout favourite for the 2000 Guineas and the Derby, for that matter, that we'll come on to in another video. And this year there isn't. It is still kind of quite open. I mean, 10-1 the field is pretty open. I mean, for example, Frankel, all them years ago, 10 years ago, he was even money at this stage to win the 2000 Guineas, and there has been similar like that. But Battleground, yeah, he is just at the top of the market. But for me personally, he's difficult to assess. As a general rule, I don't like horses that go to the Breeders' Cup at the end of the two-year-old campaign with a view to the classics the next season. That doesn't normally. I think that if a horse is going to the Breeders' Cup as a 2-year-old, I think they are more likely to be best in the 2-year-old days compared to 3-year-old, if that makes sense. So they're trying to cash in on a horse, sending him over for the big money to the Breeders' Cup, because they're not confident that he will be as talented as a 3-year-old. So that kind of that's my idea with Battleground. But he was impressive at Royal Ascot on only his second start last year. It was a truncated season. And there was a bit of a rush to get Royal Ascot through with COVID and stuff like that, but it was certainly impressive there. And then we didn't see him from Glorious Goodwood in July until the Breeders' Cup, which was in Keeneland in America in November. So that's a worry. He was due to run in the national stakes actually, Pieman, but he would have been favourite that day, but he was a non-runner due to coughing in the morning, so that would be another concern. And then I'm also going to throw another spanner in the works. His father, his sire, is a horse called Warfront. And there's been a history of his sons and daughters over the years, like I say, not being as talented as 3-year-olds. So it's a tricky one. He could well turn up and be a good horse, Battleground, for the 2021 season, but I certainly wouldn't be backing him Ante-Post at 8 or 10-1 now. It's not for me.
No, some very good points, and some warning shots, I think, for anyone who was thinking of just sort of leaning on the current favourite. But I guess with Aidan O'Brien, it's worth saying that a lot of these horses have whispers coming from the yards that they're meant to be this good or meant to be, this one's meant to be the best one and stuff. And sometimes it's not always apparent why a horse might be in a certain position in the market, but then it quite quickly becomes apparent why it was. So, I mean, we maybe haven't seen the best of any of these horses,
Yeah, that's right, Pieman. And the whisper is around Battleground that he might miss the 2,000 guineas and might end up in the French or the Irish equivalent. So the noises about Battleground at this stage haven't been as strong as the other ones from the O'Brien yard. But like you say, they don't give a lot away in the O'Brien yard. They've got that many runners and that many talented horses. You have to read between the lines, and that's something I've been trying to do for 10 years.
Something we'll be doing on this channel a bit more as well, I imagine. We're getting towards a conclusion on this video, but I think it's just worth mentioning the Racing Post Trophy, because I think the last 3 Guineas winners have all won the Racing Post Trophy, which is the final Grade 1 of the UK flat season. So, winner of the Racing Post Trophy this year, Max Sweeney, is 25-1 to win the 2,000 guineas. Why am I not just, putting Max Sweeney up?
Well, Pieman, that's a fair point. And like you say, the last 3 winners of the Racing Post Trophy have all gone on to win the 2,000 guineas. So the Racing Post Trophy traditionally was seen as a Derby trial because it's over a mile. And it's the only 2-year-old Group 1 that takes place over a mile. That's kind of stretching it for a 2-year-old young horse. So if you're winning over a mile at 2, that normally suggests that you can win over a mile and a half at 3 and beyond. So it was more traditionally a Derby trial, but yeah, like you say, the last 3 ones have come from there. Max Sweeney as an individual, he was an outsider when he won at Doncaster in October, and it was a bit of a shock that day. All the noises at the moment suggest that he's going to be a Derby horse for Jim Bolger, and that certainly wouldn't surprise me. One that was second in the Racing Post Trophy and was the favourite that day was a horse called One Ruler, again trained by Charlie Appleby. He's 25-1 for the Guineas. He's more likely to run in the Guineas than McSweeney, not guaranteed at the moment. But yeah, he was impressive in the race before that One Ruler that we're going to come on to. But yeah, you're absolutely right in flagging up the Racing Post Trophy. It just looks like the 2020 renewal wasn't packed full of Guineas horses, if you like.
Yeah, and obviously, like all sport and all life in general, 2020 might just need a line put through it in time. But time will tell, I suppose. Do you have any long price selections that people should be aware of? I know personally, my experience with anti-post markets, I used to love dropping bombs in there, 50-1, your 100-1s, and you get one in a year or two, that'll come good. You'll be sat on the favourite at a ridiculous price, and that's part of the fun of anti-post markets, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so far, like you said, Pieman, we've covered the obvious ones, if you like, that really were in the top echelons as 2-year-olds. From what we've said so far, St. Marks Basilica would be my pick. It's not the most original choice. It's 10-1, but could well turn up on the day at 3 or 4-1 and win quite easily. But that would make me look good. As a bit of a more left field, yes, I will come on to one. It comes from the Autumn Stakes, which again was run at Newmarket in October. It's a Group 3 over 7 furlongs. So the Dewhurst is a Group 1, and this was for horses that are yet to be really proven or tested at that level. So the Autumn Stakes is a couple of notches below the Dewhurst, but a good race in its own right. There was a couple of horses in there that took interest. One Ruler, who was mentioned, who then went on to run second in the Racing Post Trophy. He won the Autumn Stakes and did it pretty well. So if he did turn up at Newmarket on Guineas Day, it would certainly be a contender, but not Ante Post, because I can't guarantee he's going to turn up. Another O'Brien horse in there was Van Gogh, who was in the Autumn Stakes, came from miles off the pace, didn't get the best of runs through the race, and was a bit of an eye catcher. He's 25-1 for the Guineas, but Van Gogh, after he ran at Newmarket, later in the month in October, he went over to France and won a Group 1 over there. And they're not easy to win Group 1s over in France either. So, that's a signal of intent. So Van Gogh will be of interest to some people listening to this and some punters already at 25-1. I've just got a question mark over potential fast ground for Van Gogh. That's the only question mark I've got. If I didn't have that question mark, then don't get me wrong, I would probably be interested in Van Gogh, to be fair. But yeah, he's 25-1. Also in that Autumn Stakes was a horse called Magellan, and this would be my outsider or left field pick, if you like. He had a nightmare run through that Autumn Stakes. Couldn't get a clear run. Frankie Dettori had nowhere to go. He was boxed in left, right and centre. He finished fourth, basically on the bridle, which we would say in the game, which basically means minimum effort from the jockey. He was just cantering past horses. So yeah, he would be of interest. It's funny about Magellan because John Gosden then, even though he finished 4th in a Group 3, pitched Magallan in a Group 1, the Racing Post Trophy, on his next start, which was, you know, something to take note of, because John Gosden doesn't send horses as juveniles into Group 1s for a day out. So that was quite eye-catching, even that he turned up on that day. Gosden, on my records in 11 years, has only had 2 Group 1 winners as a juvenile. That's an incredible stat for a man, Mr. Gosden, who has been the leading UK-based trainer 6 times in the last 11 years. That doesn't mean he's been champion, because, as a matter of fact, Aidan O'Brien's been champion, the UK trainer champion, a couple of times, even though he's based in Ireland. We'll maybe cover that another day. But John Gosden, in the last 11 years, 6 times he's been the leading UK-based trainer. So to only have 2 winners in juvenile races in that time is quite incredible. I just had a look this morning. Gosden has only had 21 runners in UK Group 1s in that 11-year period. O'Brien, who doesn't even train in this country, has had a whopping 95. So I found that quite interesting personally. So John Gosden certainly doesn't send horses to Group 1s as a juvenile for a laugh. And Magallan did do that. So that was a signal of intent from me. Just finishing up on Gosden there, recent Gosden superstars like Golden Horn, Enable, Kingman, Cracksman, absolutely fantastic horses, would be in the top 25 of horses of this last decade. Didn't even run in a Group 1 as a juvenile, never mind win one. So that's a signal there of intent. Just back to Magallan, he shouldn't have been anywhere near a Doncaster racecourse on that day. The ground was heavy. This horse is by Kingman. Kingman loves fast ground. Kingman's sons and daughters love fast ground. I thought you could put a line straight through that. He finished 7th of 8 on the day. It was totally irrelevant. The horse needs faster ground, and he should get that on the first Saturday in May. It is a bit of a leap of faith. The owners of this horse, Magallan, can sometimes be a bit bemusing with their decisions, but I'm not going to try and second guess them. I've had a couple of quid on Magallan. He's 130 on the exchange, or he was last night when I had my 2 quid on. He's 66 to 1 with the bookies, so he would be my idea as a left field pick, Magallan.
Well, there you go. I mean, we're 1 video in and we've already had a 66 to 1 selection put up. So it's my kind of party, really. Excellently summarised, Adam. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it, and I'm sure the viewers did too. If you enjoyed this content, there is more coming on the way. We're going to take a look at the other classics in the coming days and weeks. And then from April onwards, we'll have plenty of regular racing content. So keep your eyes peeled. If you've got any friends who like the racing content, maybe haven't encountered us through the darts yet, but might like the racing and vice versa, be sure to cross-reference. We just want to get a nice little community of people who enjoy watching us ramble on about sport, basically. And I know there's plenty of options out there to do that. So I'm glad that you chose to do it with us. And we'll hopefully see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.